you have to own up
You have to break the pattern.
You have to break the pattern, and you have to hug the cactus and be comfortable in your ugliness. Because everyone has that ugliness, right?
Dana, be comfortable in your ugliness.
You have to be comfortable in that dark space inside yourself.
Welcome to Raw and Real, the podcast where truth wears no filter. Hosted by identical twins Dana and Stacy. The same fearless energy that defined plump.ph is back, now with deeper accountability. At the peak of the body positivity wave, they hit a hard truth. Being fat isn't brave, being fat isn't healthy, and body positive isn't the whole story. Preaching self-acceptance while eating in denial, saying I'm fine except me, wasn't honest, and it wasn't helping. At the height of wokeism, between 2016 to 2020, as the faces of the body positivity movement, they completed over 100 podcast episodes on Spotify. Now they're back, but this time on PGMN, not just with their brand, but with clarity. Born from a lifetime of twinhood, Raw and Real invites you into the unfiltered world of two women who've lived, fought, and flourished together through body shaming, cultural expectations, healing, and radical honesty. Expect real talk about what we usually hide: shame and joy, jealousy and softness, strength and sex, the systems we live in, and the stories our bodies carry. Each episode strips away performance, leaving something deeper: connection. No scripts, no pretenses, just two women speaking their truth, sometimes with serious gravity, often with blazing hilarity, and holding space for yours. This is Raw and Real. Tune in, unpack, unlearn, come as you are.
When our guest today again, nung na-post na ng team yung interview natin with him, ang dami nag-message sa atin na parang, sino to? Tama lahat ng sinasabi niya.
They wanted to where can we follow him? Pero
hindi siya ganun. He's not that type of internet person.
He just graces our podcast with wisdom. Tapos mawawala na siya.
But I'm so happy to have you again. Hi, Lex.
Hello.
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
So happy you're back. The other day, Dana was writing this article, and then she asked me ano yung nagbago from your 20s now that you're in your 30s in terms of your mindset, whether it be in love, relationships, career, whatever.
And kasi may article ako sinusulat about sa wisdom ng mga trentahin.
Ayan.
Yeah. So I'm collecting answers from people, and then I'm gonna write something about it.
And ito yung answer ko dun sa article niya is, when I was in my 20s, and we were social justice warriors promoting body positivity and all of that, parang masyado ng a huge chunk of our worldview was anchored on victim mentality. If someone would say anything bad about us, hindi kasi fat discrimination yan eh. Or hindi kasi
they're favoring the skinny ones.
Yeah, or it's because of the pretty privilege. Yung gano'n, yung parang naging gano'n na talaga yung worldview ko. And now that I'm in my 30s, and I really took a step back to assess kung, I'm so miserable. Parang having this mindset.
Insufferable.
Yeah, it's just, I was so miserable. I was mad. I was bitter towards anyone who didn't understand the advocacy, anyone who didn't fight for it. Parang nakapagod. So I was like, wait lang. And then I went into my own journey and then did therapy. And I viewed myself in a very objective lens na parang third person ako. Diba? Yung parang medyo detached ka muna sa worldviews and whatever. Tignan mo muna where it's going and all of that. And so doon ko na-realize na now I'm really more about accountability. And even our brand of empowerment, diba? Because today, it's all about women empowerment.
Buzzword na nga eh.
I really want to talk about this today, about how people are using this victimhood mindset for social points, for sympathy. In terms of that, to you, Lex, with your background in psychology and all these things, ano yung difference between genuine suffering and adopting a victim mentality na?
Right. Okay. So, why do people adopt a victim mentality? So I think that's the first question, right? Why do people do it?
Yeah.
When you're a victim, it gives you temporal power because it makes you right, and it makes anybody who's victimizing you, quote unquote, wrong.
Okay.
So, there is a functional reason why people are doing it. They're doing it to protect themselves, to feel better about themselves, to improve their self-esteem. The challenge is, at some point, you realize you're just on your own. In this world, other than God, the only person who is with you 24/7 till death is yourself.
It's you. Yeah.
Even your spouse is not with you 24/7 till death, right?
Okay.
So, at some point, people adopt these social identities, and then they get a lot of pride from being part of this social group. And then they follow group norms.
Right.
And when they do that, they marginalize the out group and they discriminate against the out group. And then they welcome and have a false sense of unity with the in group. So all of this is
Yes.
making you right and making everybody else wrong. So that's not bad in and of itself. The challenge is, at some point, you have to come to the realization that I'm alone. I have to live with myself for life. And the moment I give up my victimization is the moment I can start working on myself, being responsible, taking steps to make the situation better. Because at the end of the day, whether you're right or you're wrong, which is why they do it in the first place. I mean, when you're older already, who cares? It doesn't matter whether you're right or you're wrong. But it's not living in a functional way.
Right.
It's not living in a functional way that everybody's wrong and you're right and you feel
Yeah,
somehow
yun
justified and
nga.
powerful. But what happens is that you don't work on yourself because there's no need to work on yourself.
Yes.
Yun.
Yes.
It's somebody else's fault, be it the perspective of the world, be it your parents. The moment you say, you know what, I'm no longer a child. Whatever trauma I've experienced in my life, and I'm not discounting the pain and trauma.
Oh,
Yeah.
But at some point, you just have to say, well, what can I do about it? Nothing except accept myself, figure out how to move forward, how to move on. So that means giving up the social identity from which you're getting that power because you're right, so everybody else is wrong. You have to say, you know what, at the end of the day, doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. What's more important is that I'm functional. And to
Yeah.
become functional, you have to work on yourself. It's not easy. It's not easy to become a better human being. You
It's
actually
not.
have to
It's
work on
not.
yourself. And you have to be vulnerable to yourself because you're just alone. You don't you have no one else that you can count on, even your spouse. It's just you and your God. The moment that you fully accept what your circumstances are, and it's not saying that there's no oppression, racism. I mean, that all exists. But at the end of the day, so what? Who cares? At the end, what am I going to do? Just carry the flag of oppression for the rest of my life?
Right.
You have to come to terms with the fact that the world is an evil place. The world is a difficult place. You will have a life full of pain and hardship. But an adult owns up to that, faces that, accepts the situation, and tries to move forward. So it's not anymore about being, I'm right, I'm the victim, and you're all wrong and you're
Yeah.
oppressing me. But you're saying, I now want to move to a better place. I'm ready to do the work to move to a better place.
Yeah.
And that's not easy because you have to be very vulnerable with yourself. You have to come to terms with yourself
Yeah.
and realize that even if you are being oppressed for the sake of argument, so what? Are you the first person to be oppressed in your lifetime or in your generation?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's been oppression since the beginning of time.
Coming from this whole echo chamber where there are so many different groups, yes, meron talagang yun nga, like what you said na the world is evil, there are some challenges here. But once you identify as a victim, there's this outpour of empathy that can
Be
blind
addictive.
you. Oh, addictive siya.
Yeah, it's very
addictive siya.
addictive.
When people give you that attention, that kind of attention, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
hear you, I see you, I
Totoo.
want to be
That's
with
why
you,
I guess.
I'll walk
Yeah.
alongside you.
Yeah.
When you enter that space, it instantly gives you this false sense of, this is my purpose now, to raise awareness.
Are you speaking
Yan.
from your own experience?
I guess so. Parang for the longest time, I justified my bad choices, my tendencies, my behaviors, my patterns to, kasi wala yung tatay ko eh. Or kasi yung,
Trauma.
yung pamilya ko ganito eh. Na may value yung awareness. Pero if awareness is all you have and it's all you hold on to, you can now justify a whole world of bad behavior, toxic traits. Now it's like, I have an explanation for that.
Right.
Dana ganito ka, kasi, alam mo yun, yung biglang now, it's like you just, pew, 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 all of
Without
the-
really being accountable.
Oo, dahil lagi ako may reason for everything and dahil masama yung ginawa sa akin, you better understand. And if you don't, wala kang
Masama ka
empathy,
din. Oo,
toxic
oo.
ang tao, you don't see my victimhood.
Oh.
Diba? Parang now the question is, where do you even begin? Ikaw, na-realize mo nung miserable ka
Dude, kasi
na.
I was so miserable and I was picking fights with people I knew. Like,
Ay, oo.
why aren't you on my side? Why
Oo.
aren't you? And then I was like, Teka lang parang this isn't
Taas na ng
function.
cortisol
Tama
mo.
taas na ng cortisol ko. Parang tama ka, it's not a functional way to live.
That's right. That's right. And actually, the more you associate with people like you, then you will go deeper and deeper into your echo chamber.
Oh my
So I think
God.
part of the solution is to realize that this whole in-group, out-group thing is really a false dichotomy. That people are really struggling at different levels. You're part of multiple groups at the same time. So identify with a certain subsector of society is really not the most important thing. Because you can look at yourself and you can say daughter, you can say Christian, you can say
Sister,
traumatized, sister, whatever group
Ah.
you find. But you can switch hats by choice. And you can identify with any group that you want. There's this whole issue of intersectionality, right? Which is basically like your oppression comes from the subsection of society you come from, and the level of oppression there is what you are currently experiencing. What is
Right.
that? That's Marxist. That's completely the Marxist perspective. That's what Marx
Okay.
proposed, right? He's talking about power, that the oppressed will always be oppressed and the oppressor will always be the oppressor. So you just have to pick what your oppressor and oppressed is. Is it racism? Is it gender theory? Is it economic oppression? So following this idea, there's always going to be an oppressor and an oppressed. And I think that's a very limited view of the world. To think
Agree.
in a completely Marxist perspective. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, I think, yes, there are oppressors, but am I going to really focus on that?
Right.
There are corruptors, there are evil people,
yeah.
but there are also good people. So at the end of the day, everyone is broken, including the oppressed and the oppressor. And it's just the lens you choose to use when you're viewing a particular situation. So what's most important? One is that you learn how to live with yourself.
That's so hard.
Like, sinatapos mo na agad eh. Wala
Hindi,
pang 10 minutes.
hindi, pero part of learning how to live with yourself is accepting that you live in a cruel world.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you shouldn't
Yeah.
expect that the world will be whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
The world will treat you harshly. And that's the reality. That has happened for generations. To focus on that oppression, to determine what level of oppression you're experiencing based on your social identity, again, going back to what we said earlier, who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, you're just stuck with yourself.
Yeah.
So are you going to figure out how to make things better? And that's difficult and it will require vulnerability. Or are you going to complain to high heavens about your parents or your situation or whatever? Now, most people I know
Yeah.
choose to complain. And I'm 51 years old. So most people I know are around my age. And they're still complaining. So at some point, I ask myself, like, when are you going to stop? When are you gonna stop? I mean, like, I'm 10 years away from I'm 9 years away from senior citizenhood,
Oh my God!
right? And so if I'm still complaining now at senior citizen, when I'm a senior citizen at 60, should I now stop? Or maybe I can keep going till I'm 70 or 80, right? Because people don't get wiser when they get older. They just get older.
Right.
To get wiser, you have to work on yourself. And
It's a
that's
choice.
not easy. And accepting that the world is going to oppress you, be harsh to you. The world doesn't owe you anything.
Yan.
It doesn't owe you anything.
Hard
You want to
truth.
move up in the world, you have to do something about your situation. Now, am I saying that it's easy? Of course not. When you have trauma, part of it is coming to terms with your negative emotion. They say hugging the cactus. You have to hug the cactus. But you can't hug the cactus forever. You only hug the cactus for a certain period. And then you choose to let go of that cactus,
Yeah.
right?
Release the thorns.
So you don't suppress your emotion. But you cannot live with that emotion forever. It's not
Right.
sustainable. And it's not functional. And then you're going to be unhappy. So really, it's about finding balance. And it's balance internally. It's you and you. It's you and you and your
versus
God.
you, But, other than that, ang daming layers, di ba, ng victimhood na isa yung ikaw, isa yung meron ka ng group, and then the other is, when you keep crying victim, and then everyone sees na may benefit yun, it really puts the real victims into the back burner. Dahil now, we have these noisy group of
Pa-victims.
pa-victims,
Right.
and the real victims are like, okay, we're here trying to
And their pain
wrestling,
and suffering
grief,
are minimized.
When the whole Me Too movement was happening and everyone, I was in my 20s, I also posted my own story na sinensationalize ko din naman dahil parang,
because
hindi, kasi lahat ng
everyone gets
tao,
attention, di ba? Parang that's the time for sympathy and
the more detailed the story, the more parang
The more points it gets.
the more attention it gets. So ako naman,
Right.
para okay. And then someone reached out to me and said, I'm so amazed at how you can be so vocal about this because I am a victim of rape and I can't. And parang ako, wow, sobra akong natauhan in a way na here I am complaining about this thing that, I mean, I put myself in, for...
What's the situation? Hindi, sige,
Hindi,
kwento mo.
natin.
Kwento
Sige,
mo.
kwento natin. So, may party. Okay, yan.
Okay.
Yung sila mga kwento nung 20s. May party, may booze.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're all drinking. And I was really attracted to this guy. Okay. Pogi siya. And, like,
Okay.
he stands beside me. And I'm like, I need a lighter kasi nag-yossi pa ako nun. And he goes, oh, meron ako. And then he reaches for his bag, but he grabs my butt instead. And parang inisip ko nung time na yun, na-flatter ba ako? Nagustuhan ko ba? I mean, I'm also so confused.
Yeah.
It's something that I could have called out. I mean,
In that moment.
na parang, akala ko ba lighter ko kunin mo? Or whatever. And then, but when the whole Me Too thing erupted, parang,
Biglang now you painted it to
Ako
be
din.
this.
oh, yun! Me too!
Kasama ako dyan.
Me too!
Kasama ako dyan.
Parang
Yes.
biglang naging ganon.
I'm getting on that bus too.
Yan.
Yeah.
Na parang now everyone's all the likes and all the talk and all the comments on Facebook. Sige, sali ako. If I had processed it maturely, I wouldn't have chalked it up to that. I think that's the danger of it. Your experiences and the narrative are now blurred.
And your recollection of that event after the fact is completely inaccurate.
Right.
Yes.
Because memory has been proven to be the most inaccurate thing.
right,
You cannot
right.
measure
Yes,
memory.
yes.
Memories are not reliable, to be clear.
Right.
And I'm not saying that people who claim that they were victimized were not.
Yes.
But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, it doesn't mean that what you have been saying is actually exactly what happened. And if you add largest amount of gasoline to the fire, it's always alcohol. So alcohol is the gasoline which makes most fires happen. If you look at the volume of people in any jail anywhere in the world, most of them committed crimes when they were
Inebriated.
it's not even drugs. It's really alcohol because alcohol is more
See?
prevalent.
Joke lang. It's not drugs.
It's mostly alcohol, really.
Yeah.
I had a teacher in high school who used to say that if you wanted to avoid sin, you have to avoid near occasions of sin. So it's about what situations
that.
you put yourself in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because again, regardless of the trauma, and we're not demeaning whatever you went through, but at the end of the day, at some point, you have to give it up. It's like you're carrying this heavy rock and you have to put that rock down because you're carrying this rock wherever you go. And it's for your benefit, right? And so part of putting down the rock is avoiding near occasions of sin. Avoiding places that will put you in a vulnerable situation. Like, I'm married, for example. If I'm spending a lot of time with a woman who's not my wife, it's very easy for me to go down the wrong path. So I won't do it, right? Because I already know that that's not correct for me because I don't want to be put down that path, right? I don't want to test or tempt
Yun nga.
myself.
Yeah.
Yun nga.
And it's not because I don't love my wife, but I'm a human being. That's how it works, right? So what do I need to do? I need to make sure that I'm not in that compromising situation, even if it's just coffee, even if it's just a meal, right? I will make sure that I'm safe within what I feel is acceptable, right? So if you ask people, do you want change? Everybody says yes, they want change. And then you ask them the second question. So are you willing to change? And they say, huh? Me? Why me? I have nothing to do with this. I'm the victim here. Right? But actually, if you're the victim, even if you were the one who was oppressed, to move forward, you have to change in order to reach and find that change that you're looking for. You're not going to find the change unless you yourself change. And things have to be different. So whatever path that got you where you ended up, you have to do something different. So you're not going to end up in that
The
path
same path.
the second time, right?
Yeah.
And so it's about like owning up and then really just being an adult and just saying, you know what? At the end of the day, I need to accept my history.
Yes.
And part of accepting my history is putting the rock down and saying, I'm not going to carry this rock around forever. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to own up. I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to say anybody's name apart from myself in terms of why I got in this situation. And then
That's so
I'm
That's
going
wild.
to avoid near occasions of sin by not putting myself in compromising situations moving forward. So I'm not going to repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah.
And that requires really looking at yourself naked in the mirror. You can't hide from yourself. people put lots and lots of layers
Right.
because actually they don't like what they see. When they look at their inner cathedral and they see what's going on in their heart, it's not nice. And people don't want to be in that space. But that space is where you need to be if you want to move forward.
Yeah.
You can't, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. It's always going to be hard. But if you're blaming somebody else for where you are, or blaming your social group for where you are, then you're really moving in the wrong direction. You have to really own up and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
So I accept my past. And what can I do to make it better? And maybe just incrementally better. But every day you work at making it better.
Agreed. Pero Lex, ito naman, paano naman yung parang people who swing the other direction na sobrang extreme, na all they do is self-blame? Wala na, they just put themselves down completely na lahat kasalanan ko. Like, inako na nila lahat. lahat.
Pasan ko
lahat.
ang daigdig. Ganyan.
Yan.
Actually, there is an experiment by Seligman called learned helplessness, where they were electrocuting dogs. This was before ethical standards in psychology. They were electrocuting dogs.
Okay.
Clearly.
Yes.
Poor dogs.
And so, terrible. And then some of the dogs were had a leash, so they weren't allowed to jump away from the place that they were getting electrocuted. Okay, so
Okay.
they were conditioned. That's what they call it.
Yes, conditioning.
And then, for round 2, the electrocuted dogs were now allowed to jump over this very, very small barrier in order to free themselves from the pain. And what happened was that those that were conditioned with the electrocution, when they couldn't get out of it in the first stage, chose not to jump over to the second stage.
Learned helplessness.
It's learned helplessness. So and that happens for animals, but that happens for people too. The moment you come to the conclusion that wherever and whatever I am, there's nothing I can do about it, then you've learned to be helpless. And this happens with a lot of people at different levels. Sometimes the poor are like that. Ganyan talaga ang buhay, wala namang mangyayari. Or sometimes the rich are like that. People in abusive relationship. At least mahal niya ako in his own abusive way, right?
Right.
So you're making excuses because you taught yourself, or the situation taught yourself, that pain from electrocution is inevitable. I can't escape it. Even when you can escape it, you don't. Okay, so if we believe that experiment to be true, Seligman's learned helplessness, it's important to first recognize that the chains that bind you, you can get out of, because a lot of this is in your head.
Mental.
Yes, you have to realize
all
that I am
mental.
that dog and I can jump out, but I have to make a choice to jump out, right? And then if you have loved ones, to actually physically help them to jump. And this happens with the dogs. If you help them to get out, they can do it again. The second, the third, the fourth time.
Stacy.
So that's the thing. That's the thing.
Love it.
It's what are you doing for the people when they are in that learned helplessness state? So again, I'm more focused on, let's be proactive. Parang, victimhood and the pain, it's not real. It is real.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, why are we gonna go there and swim in that? Do we have to swim in that to get out of it? Right? I think, just like that learned helplessness,
Nice.
you have to get that dog and put the dog in a place where he's not getting electrocuted. Teach the dog again how to jump over that small barrier, because it's a mental block that's stopping people. But the moment you still are swimming in that space where you're blaming your mom, blaming your dad, blaming your trauma, there's no way you can ever get out. You will just be there forever, electrocuted, and just saying, woe is me.
Woe
The
is-
world
yeah.
is evil, and yada, yada, yada.
Oh.
And it's not being insensitive to somebody in pain. But it's not helpful for that person to just say, oh, just tell me all your problems. Keep telling me again and again and again what happened to you.
Yeah.
At some point, diba, parang
Yeah.
let's start there. And then at some point, we say, okay, so what are we going to do about this now? Are we going to now give it up and try to find a solution to this problem? Try to make it better, even incrementally? Or are you just going to allow yourself to be electrocuted there and come up with reasons why
Right.
that's the best that you can do?
Lex, okay, but how do you toe the line between empathy that drives people to better change and yung toxic empathy na, okay, sige, talk therapy tayo, 1 year na tayong ito pa rin pinag-uusapan
Oo,
natin.
oo.
Like, how do you now toe that sensitive line of being there in their grief? Sa totoong victims to may mga pa-victim kasi talaga. How do you now balance that?
There's no hard and fast rule, to be clear. Kasi
Okay,
tao yung
okay.
kausap
Oo
mo,
nga,
diba?
yun
It's
nga
not like there's no like formula. I just have to
Ayan
do
ka
one
na.
step, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Is important to me is that you help the person to understand how they sound. So when you're listening to somebody,
I like
rather than say, okay, Dana, ganito kasi dapat. Okay, ganyan, ganyan. Ito yung gagawin mo, Stacy. Basta sunod ka sa akin, wala tayong problema. The moment you go into that mode, it's very difficult to listen, to be like a support.
Right.
So when somebody says something to you, rather than making a comment on it, you just repeat it back to that person and say, this is what I understood. Is that what you meant? You're just literally repeating. You told me this, so I'll tell you. Okay, this is what I
Can
heard.
we do a sample?
Sure.
Gawa tayo ng...
Scenario.
Stacey, ayusin mo kasi feeling ko, kunwari pag sinabi ko, Stacey, feeling ko ang tanga-tanga ko, ang tanga-tanga mo. Ganun niya
Totoo.
uulitin.
Oo. Totoo. Tama ba
Yeah,
yun?
so, no, I would say, okay.
Dahil kunwari, parang ang
for
tanga-tanga ko,
example,
ginawa ko na naman
correct.
yung dapat kong hindi gawin.
Okay,
Ganyan.
that's right. So, ano yung ginawa mo? Then I would ask you to describe.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
Kasi okay, sabi mo, you did this before. Ilang beses na. So I'm asking you to now quantify to yourself.
Oh my
How
God,
many-
galing nun ah.
How many times have you done this? 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. So we're now putting...
Para hindi kayong parang forever, I'm always.
Correct.
Yung mga ganun na
Correct.
statements.
Correct. So what I'm doing is I'm not telling you what to do. I'm literally just repeating what you said back to you.
Para
And then-
mapaisip mo ko.
Yes, because
Ay, galing
really, you have to solve the problem on your own, di ba? If you're just dependent on a psychologist, a therapist, a psychiatrist, and they learned helplessness pa rin yun. It's just that it's just an expert.
Oh my gosh,
An
yes.
expert to say, okay, ganito kasi. Ito yung gagawin mo. If that's your solution,
Wild.
then that's also the same. You're also being electrocuted. It's just that now you have somebody with a PhD in his name
Oh,
electrocuting you.
yan, dude, seriously, honestly, totoo.
Doktora nag-electrocute sa'yo. It doesn't really mean, I mean, honestly, like, I know a lot of doctors that aren't that smart. I know a lot of lawyers that aren't that good. I mean, what I'm saying is, it's just the reality of it. Just because you have a title to your name doesn't
Right.
actually mean that you're there's a spectrum of talent when it comes to any career. So the goal really is to learn how to help yourself.
Okay.
Right? And
yes.
to create a formula which is your formula.
Oo.
Meaning, even if you're twins, it's not like, oh, ito, gumana to sa kapatid ko, so ito yung gagawin ko. You have to have a bespoke formula of your own. So what is
Custom.
that?
Okay.
That's trial and error.
Oh.
So you have to try many things and keep what works. But you have to be documenting things as you try them. Para ka scientist.
Oh.
Di ba, para ka scientist.
Journal
Okay.
it.
Yeah, so let's say, I want to be with a man who will treat me the way I deserve. And I have not been able to achieve that.
Okay.
So, first, you understand what happened. And as you write things down and be objective with yourself, this is your mirror. And as you talk to other people about it, it's just to get more information so you can try something different again. And so you're trying different formulas. And then as something doesn't work, you cancel it out and put a new one. And you're constantly just working on yourself. So it's like a functional way to try to improve your life, but you're not just doing it randomly. And the process of documentation is key because
Wow.
memory doesn't work, right? I told you earlier, memory is not reliable.
Yeah.
So you have to write down what you're doing. Otherwise, just like a chef, you can't go back and say, hindi, matabang. Ano yung
Recipe
ginawa
ko.
ko? What's my
Yeah.
recipe? So you have to create your recipe of getting out of your life problems. And it's you. Now your coach, your therapist, whatever, is literally just pushing you along a little bit, like a cheerleader sometimes,
Yeah.
a listening ear sometimes. But the solution should be yours. So you should find people that tell you what you're doing because you're always blind to yourself. You think you know what you're doing, but even your own thoughts and feelings, it's not reliable. So you find somebody you trust who will tell you what you're doing, which is ironic because you think that this is my life. I know, I know what I'm
Ibang-iba,
doing,
yeah,
but it's
yung
not. You
perspective,
don't
eh.
also know what you're doing sometimes. So
Interesting.
you have to find people who you trust who will tell you what you don't want to hear. So the one who tells you what you want to hear, that's not a real friend. The real
Right.
friend is the one who tells you in a kind and loving way, you know what? Hindi ako okay dyan. Whatever you're doing, parang problema yan. That's not good.
Yeah.
You know, I had a business partner. This guy, we always just go out, have fun. And one time he came up to me and said, you know that girl you're dating? I'm not okay with her.
No.
And at that time, I brushed it off as, whatever. But you know, years later, I really appreciate it. Na a man telling another man, and it wasn't with any jealous whatever.
Right.
It wasn't like that. It was just
agenda.
Like, parang he was just like, bro, alam mo, I've heard a lot of things about that girl. Hindi okay yan.
He's looking out for you.
Looking out for me. But of course, he
solid.
was like joking about it, smiling,
Okay.
smiling. But it was serious eh.
Oh.
You know what I say? He told me seriously. And later, years down the line, I said, you know, that guy, kaibigan ko talaga yan. He
Right.
told me what I didn't want to hear. Kasi in love na ako dun sa girl eh. But true
Pero
enough,
tama siya.
tama talaga.
Oh, man.
So this is the thing. You have to surround yourself with people who will lovingly tell you what you don't
Right.
want to hear
Right.
about yourself. And then you have to create your own formula for success. Try many things that keep what works and document like you're a chef that's trying to find your own solutions. Ideally, you get out of your victimhood or any other problem for that matter on your own. Because you can't rely on anybody else anyway. So ideally, you have to find something which works for you. And it's not like a cookie cutter thing.
Yeah.
And like what I was saying, for me, avoiding near occasions of sin, not putting myself in situations that tempt me, that's my formula. But everyone has a different formula.
I have a question though. Paano naman yung mga tao na lagi silang victim? May ganun eh. Yung parang sobra na silang victim na napapaisip ako, may mali dito eh. May nakatrabaho kasi akong ganun. Kinakwento ko para, ba't wala pa rin tao? Ba't laging ang bilis ng turnover? Laging perfect sila. Pero lahat ng dumaan na naging katrabaho nila, ito si ganito kasi ginanito kami. Ito si ganito kami. Parang at one point naisip ko, okay, how do you now recognize a narcissist?
Who's using victimhood?
Who's using victimhood?
Yeah.
Na compared to someone who's actually a person who's been wronged. May iba kasing ganun yung, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
Lex?
there are people that just bring drama wherever they go.
Yes.
Diba? Daming nega. Di ba? Yung tao na talaga, pag nega lang talaga. Daming gulo,
Nakakapagod.
daming away. Wherever they
lahat
go,
may issue.
Lahat may issue, lahat may drama.
May drama talaga. So, people like that are really called toxic individuals. Diba? So, the first step is to attempt as much as you can. I mean, kung kapatid mo yan, kung nanay mo yan, maybe you can't avoid. But as much as possible, cut toxic people out, right? As much as possible.
Okay.
Because if the level of narcissistic personality disorder is severe, it's not curable. NPD is not curable.
Yep.
A lot of mental disorders are not curable. You just kind of deal with it. It's like being an alcoholic. You'll be alcoholic for life and you try to work on it. But NPD in particular is a very difficult. And it's difficult also for the one who's narcissistic.
Right.
It's not even, it's not,
siya.
yeah, kasi, ano eh.
Skewed na yung reality
Correct.
niya. Or parang pag tinry mo siya lovingly sabihan, inggit ka kasi sa akin.
Correct. Or whatever.
Oo.
or
Or
whatever.
whatever.
I saw this reel, this psychiatrist or psychologist is saying na, alam mo, yung mga narcissist, it's a big lie to assume that they love themselves. That's why sila narcissist. The truth is they hate themselves. They're full of self-loathing.
And the problem with narcissists is that they succeed in many settings. If you look at
Right,
politicians, you
right.
look at
They are
CEOs,
successful.
sobrang daming narcissists. So it now fuels the identity and you keep doing whatever narcissistic things brought you to where you got, right? Because you think that
Kasi
this
successful
is
eh.
me. Because narcissists are very successful. Because you're willing to step on people along the way, lie, cheat, steal, wala yun. So,
Yes.
in a dog-eat-dog world, a narcissist will more easily climb up a ladder, right?
Oh my
So they're
gosh.
successful, and yet
It's crazy.
you can't really cure them or fix them.
Uh-huh.
So if you can avoid them, then you should, right?
Okay.
But if you can't avoid them, then I think acceptance is key, right? Acceptance meaning you have to grow the empathy in you and just say, you know, it must be hard to be like this person. Huwag ka na makipag-argue.
Yeah.
Don't try to counsel. Get them to
okay.
understand certain things or walk with them. Parang with some people, they're just beyond repair. And so what you want to do is protect yourself. But if it's a necessary relationship, then you protect yourself. But you still have to engage. I mean, if that's your father or your mother, what are you going to do?
Oo nga.
You shouldn't cut them out.
Mm.
You make the best out of a bad situation. But you have to protect yourself also, that you don't
Yeah.
get sucked into that nega vortex, right?
I honestly feel bad for influencers who are just surrounded with yes people all the time, who never call them out. And then you see them grow into monsters.
Yeah.
Like, we know of friends who are friends with friend nila nung high school, tapos nag-boom, naging celebrity. Like, I can't even recognize this person anymore because the level of ego,
Entitlement.
the entitlement,
Ah.
you know? So parang, How do we even tell people to avoid narcissists and stop following narcissists online?
You have to understand kasi the behavior of groups. So, when you're in a showbiz culture, when you're in a political culture, there is a common way of being. So, there's a culture.
There is.
So, those people are just adapting the culture of that group. And that is what is valued in that group. Because, like that, when it comes to likes, it's how many likes you get.
Right.
When it comes to show business, it's how big your contracts are, how big a star you are. When it comes to politics, it's what position you hold.
Yeah.
So that's the currency in each group. And so actually, and that's why showbiz people and politicians always end up together. Because the culture is actually very similar. The culture in show business and in politics is actually very similar.
true.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, here, it's the beauty, and here it's the power thing, right? Power and money. But at the same, it's the same thing going on both sides of that aisle. And that's why it's easy for an artista to become a
Mag-ping-pong.
politician and back and
Oo
forth.
nga, no?
Right?
That makes sense.
So, going back to what you were saying, people become more like the norms within that
The culture.
group based on the culture that that group dictates. So, if you enter a space, you will not be able to change the space. That
The
space will change you.
That's so true. That's so
So,
true.
I-
Because you have to play by the rules of that space.
So yung mga
in a
nagsasabi na, I'm entering this place to make a
change it.
change.
Well,
Parang
okay,
mahirap.
if you look, for example, the idea of politics. In politics, in Congress, in Senate, it's majority wins. Majority rules, right? And so, you have to compromise because how can you get anyone to vote for your bill if you didn't vote for their bill? So, the nature of the system is based on I scratch your back today, you scratch my back tomorrow. So, it's really,
Okay.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
it's really horse trading, right?
Okay.
So, embedded in the rules is compromise. You can't enter expecting that you won't compromise because the rules are it's a votation system, right? Of
Right.
majority wins. So that's the way it works. If you go to show business, ganun din 'di ba? Parang people really make compromises to move up. And depends what you're willing to do, but it's embedded in the culture and the system. So it's very, very hard to change that. So if you enter, it's important to understand this is what's going on there and be realistic enough to think or to accept, you know what, I'm not going to change it. I have to work with this and I have to change. Because I'm not going to be able to go there and be like the man of La Mancha there and just change everybody and get them to believe my own version of the truth.
Yeah.
Ang dami nila eh.
True.
Di ba? So I think it's just a reality. And again, I come kasi from the premise that the world is a difficult, evil place. It's not like you have to learn how to navigate the world.
Right.
And you won't be a victim the moment you accept, okay, life is hard. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be trauma. All these bad things are going to happen to me.
Right.
So I need to figure it out. I need to move forward. I need to accept.
You know, I think that's what also changed me dun sa from my 20s to my 30s is just being slapped in the face with the reality about the world. Kasi when we were social justice warriors for body positivity, we were like, no, the world should be this. Should be accepting. This is the ideal.
Everyone should be beautiful.
Everyone, all bodies are
all
beautiful.
bodies are
Ganyan,
perfect.
ganyan.
Everyone's a 10. Everyone's a 10. Okay, ganyan.
On the Richter scale. No, but ito pala, nasampal nga ako ng katotohanan na, wait, that is not the correct view of the world. That's why so many
Disconnected
people
ka na talaga
lobbying for, fighting for whatever. Parang, there are some girls who say na, hindi, dapat the world will be so safe that women can walk naked freely on the street and not be harassed and catcalled and all of these things.
Wow.
Pero the reality is,
Garden of Eden.
this is not, this is a dangerous, scary
Oh,
world, okay?
correct.
It's just the reality.
I think there's a lot of minimization of evil there.
Parang if you wanna be accountable, if you wanna, fix yourself, all what Lex was saying, the first thing you need to do is have a real view of the world. As in.
Because I think when you have a real view of the world, it will also give you the truest sense of you. Now you're also a sinner, you're also
right.
stained, you're also
Broken.
broken and looking for love in all the wrong places.
Right.
And I think that kind of mindset is not ideal for many. Alam mo yun, mawawala yung power ng pagiging victim eh. I mean, when you start talking about the world that way, biglang, what? So I'm part of it? Parang,
Yeah,
what?
I'm part
Now
of the
I'm
problem.
accountable. Ayoko nga.
Oo.
And one thing na, ito nga kanina inisip ko din. Lex, can you explain this to me? Why are we so drawn to what's familiar and not what's best for us?
It's a habit. It's just like being that electrocuted dog, right? Because you're just used to it. You're used to that pain. And so it's difficult to jump over that barrier. But if you recognize that you can jump over that barrier, you are in a prison of your own making. So you have to figure out how to jump over the barrier. The first step is to stop blaming. As in the moment you're blaming somebody other than yourself, then there's no way you're going to find yourself over that barrier. You're just going to stick it out in that pain. You're not going to find a way to get out of it. So we were talking about everybody wants change, but how many people are willing to change themselves? If you want to move forward, you have to work and change yourself. You have to figure out how to make things better. And if your pattern brought you here, your habits brought you here, then expect more of the same, right? Unless you make a drastic change. So
Right.
you have to to own up.
You have to break the pattern.
You have to break the pattern, and you have to hug the cactus and be comfortable in your ugliness. Because everyone has that ugliness, right?
Dana, be comfortable in your ugliness.
You have to be comfortable in that dark space inside
Sobra ka na
yourself.
Okay.
You have to find it. And then you realize that, you know what, when you get married, when you have a life partner, you come to accept that person exactly as they are. And then you realize that you're just two broken people trying to figure things out, as opposed to that theory that once you're whole, you can find another person who's whole.
Oh my God.
I don't believe that eh. Ako, like I said, I'm 51 years old, and when I look at myself, I see a lot of bad in me. Trust me. I see a lot in me that is not right. Sometimes I end up saying things and I'm asking myself afterwards, that was a lie. Ah. I didn't say the truth. I mean, sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small, but you catch yourself. Eh.
Oh, you
I
have
don't
those
think I'm an
moments.
evil person, but I do evil things.
Right.
So
Wow.
it's important to recognize that, oh, shucks, that was wrong. But then if you're just kind of running on this treadmill, you never, and again, it's going back into accepting the ugliness inside of yourself as a beautiful process of moving beyond it. So you're not like swimming in the muck, but you have to accept it so you can move forward. And then recognize that your life partner, your husband, your wife, is going to have their own baggage too.
Oo nga.
And then you just work together, right? But the beauty of being married is you can't get out of it. So then you're forced to deal with each other.
Yeah.
Because if this was a contract, meaning I don't want, I get out of it, then of course, at some point, I'll get out. It's not humanly possible to stick it out and to be truly happy and so into each other from the moment you get married to the time you're like, no
Yeah.
way,
Oh.
impossible. That's a human impossibility. Because we're stuck together and we're choosing not to break up, then we're forced to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then now you have a teammate to like go through all that junk
Yeah.
and then kind of work it out a little at a time, right? So it's a very messy process. People are always looking for like a quick fix, right? They want to
Yeah.
like fix their life, but the reality of it is that getting better, having a better life requires effort, requires vulnerability, requires time, requires swimming in that muck, not running away from it, looking at yourself, understanding all the bad stuff about yourself, and just saying, you know what, I'm a human being. And then finding another person who is just as broken, just as messed up, and then deciding that we will walk on this gauntlet as a team, right?
Yeah.
On this
Yeah.
gauntlet of life. So I don't know if that's a pessimistic view of the world, but honestly, like for me, I find it to be very optimistic, right? Because there is hope.
Yeah.
There is hope that tomorrow will be better than today. It could also be worse, but I prefer to focus on the hope that
Yeah.
tomorrow may be better than today, but I need to work on things. It's not just gonna happen, and I'm not gonna read a book and it's just gonna figure things out like,
Yeah.
automatically. It's not a magic thing. There's no magic
It's part of
involved.
being human talaga. So, should we close this?
Grabe to! I love this episode!
Okay, meron akong
Excellent.
siguro you can add, but this is gonna be my last question. In a social climate where victimhood is now power, what would you tell people who are using that power and embracing it as an identity?
There's nothing wrong with reliving what happened to
Okay.
some extent.
Okay.
To feeling the genuine emotions that come with that.
Yeah.
To figuring out what exactly happened and bringing some level of clarity. That's not bad. Because
That's
you don't
true.
want to put it under a rug. It's just
Right.
gonna
Oh,
bubble
totoo.
up anyway, right?
That's true.
But kailangan may hangganan. There has to be a limit. So you have to, at some point, figure out that this cannot be the path of my life. That it'll be somebody else's name or group that I'm blaming forever. You have to take accountability.
Right.
And you have to now work on yourself. when you're sick and tired of saying the same story again and again, maybe you should tell yourself, tama na.
What na to? Okay na.
You know,
Parang
this
10 taon na tong kwentong to.
Correct. And honestly, 10 years is short.
Oo nga eh.
Kasi,
I've heard other
kasi
people
sabi ko
like,
nga, I'm 51 years old, so everyone in my age range is the same.
crazy.
Ganun pa rin. I always tell those people, I go, magsi-senior na tayo. Diba? Magsi-senior citizen na tayo. Puro puti na yung buhok natin. Diba? So at some point, when are you gonna stop?
okay.
Right? And
okay.
it's not invalidating your feelings, but it's just saying, that's not getting you where you need to go. Right?
Nice.
So I think
yeah.
you have to make a choice. And people in rehab will always point to that time where they made the choice and they said, ayoko na maging addict. It's actually like finding faith. It's like you just come to this point and you say,
Commitment
I
talaga.
cannot do this life without God. So God, ikaw nang bahala. You take,
Take
Jesus
the
take
wheel.
the wheel, right?
Yeah.
So that point of like breakdown and pure and total submission, it works for faith, but it also works for trauma. It actually works for any negative emotion where you say, I can't handle anymore, but I'm going to now put it down and try to move this thing forward. No more blaming, no more reliving that lousy story again and again. Because so what? It doesn't help to just keep saying it again and again. So it's the first step to moving forward is really submitting it, just giving it up.
Lex Ladesma, everybody. Thank you, Lex.
Wonderful.
Super insightful as always.
Thanks,
So,
Lex.
Sure.
That's it for this episode. Keep it raw.
And keep it real.
Mwah.